I talk to so many practitioners and we all feel like, gosh, it's like, this isn't what we came here for.
Yeah.
What are we doing? What are we doing? Right? We are very fragmented now, and healthcare has changed. Unfortunately, the person that suffers that is the patient.
Medipreneurs is there to say, let's come together and figure this out. Let's bring in people who do know business and know how to strategically build businesses and help us reframe healthcare in ways that align with who we are and what we want to offer.
Healthcare today has many of us healthcare providers feeling frustrated and disheartened. There's a loss of passion for what we all went into healthcare to do, which is to help others get better. And this has created many to think about how they can pivot and create their own path through entrepreneurship. So if you're a healthcare professional and have been considering, in the process of, or already have established your own business, you want to stay here with us. Because today I am so excited to have one of the co-founders of Medipreneurs. This beautiful human is Dr. Michelle Fritsch. But before we begin, I want to tell you a little bit about her. Dr. Fritsch, she is a board-certified geriatric clinical pharmacist with a passion for healthy aging and education. She's a specialist in medication use, prevention, and retirement transition in people over 60. In addition to Medipreneurs, she's also the founder of Retirement Wellness Strategies and co-founder of Propel Comprehensive Wellness. So Dr. Fritsch, thank you so much for being here today. I am so excited for this conversation.
Oh, I've been looking forward to this. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm truly thrilled to be here.
Absolutely. So I had the privilege of attending live my first Medipreneurs conference. Unfortunately, in 2020, that was canceled when I was originally planning on attending.
Right.
But got to go now in August. And for those who are not familiar with Medipreneurs, tell us a little bit about it and what was your inspiration behind it?
Well, it's the network opportunity for healthcare professional entrepreneurs. And we learned early on that as much training as we go through, whether it's medicine, nursing, pharmacy, chiropractors, OTs, PTs, all the training we go through, we really don't learn how to run businesses. And as healthcare has changed to something that we may not have really anticipated and isn't aligned with the reasons we went through all that training, Medipreneurs is there to say, let's come together and figure this out. Let's bring in people who do know business and know how to strategically build businesses and help us reframe healthcare in ways that align with who we are and what we want to offer. Now, I am not the brainchild of Medipreneurs. It was Sue Paul who first thought about it, and she was at a breakfast with Anna Garrett. And they realized as entrepreneurs and as pharmacists that they didn't know other people taking similar paths, but just the two of them over breakfast were able to help each other so much. You know, if one had a legal issue, maybe the other one had just talked to a lawyer about that. Or if one was trying to figure out, whatever question, the other one tended to have already done that. And they're like, well, if the two of us can be so helpful, who else out there would benefit from coming together to navigate these things? And so Anna knew me and brought me into the fold as we got started. And that was in early 2016, maybe even late 2015. And then the first Medipreneurs Summit was in April of 2018. So it took a little while to pull it all together. And then the one that's coming up in June will be the 6th Medipreneurs Summit.
That'll be my second one.
Awesome.
So excited. So excited. So how has your professional experience shaped where you see Medipreneurs heading?
I'm glad you asked that, because I think being one with a few more years of experience than a lot of others, I think I've got a unique perspective on this. When I did my postdoc training, it was in a geriatric research and education center, a GREC, which was a federally funded type of care model specifically for older adults. And a lot of it was in the VA. So I was actually in Madison, Wisconsin in the VA when I was getting my training. And everything that was done was coordinated by a group of professionals from all sorts of different disciplines. And from there, I moved into my first professional experience, which was an academic position in Kansas City. And I worked at the Leavenworth VA in Kansas. And we had this big, robust interprofessional team of, we had 2 geriatricians, we had geriatric nurses, pharmacists, psychologists, OT, PT, social work, the whole team. Now, not that everybody would be involved in every decision, but all of these people were available when we hit a snag or when a patient was more complex and really needed lots of perspectives coordinating together. And then from there, I left the VA, which was a wonderful thing, but I wanted to see if those sorts of things could happen in the real world. Mm-hmm. And I had opportunities to work collaboratively with other people, a lot of work with nurses, social workers, case managers, physicians, in various sorts of settings. And so my whole career has been built around what we can do together, because patients benefit when you get, it's different perspectives. We all come at it a little bit differently. And so it enhances healthcare. What I've seen happen is greater and greater fragmentation during my career. And so between barriers of payment models and sometimes insurance and malpractice and liability reasons, it feels like we've been separated and everybody's doing their own thing. And even with enhancements in some of the medical record systems, it's not seamless that one person involved in the care of somebody knows what somebody else is doing and can really coordinate that. So I believe the answers to really enhancing healthcare in our country lie within finding ways to collaborate better.
Absolutely.
I think it also lies in giving us the freedom and autonomy to take our knowledge base and go out and do things in a way that's a little less encumbered than what we find in the current health system. So I'm trying to take 2 crazy things, go out and do it new, and collaborate with others and see what we can create.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm in agreement with you. I think we are very fragmented now, and healthcare has changed. And unfortunately, the person that suffers that is the patient. And we need to be able to collaborate and all come together for the good of the patient. And again, I think that's where I talk to so many practitioners, and we all feel like, gosh, it's like, this isn't what we came here for. Yeah. What are we doing? Right? Things need to be done differently. And so many are going into entrepreneurship. And now you're in this world that can be a little lonely, right?
Very lonely.
It's very different where you go to this, you go to the hospital, you go to the pharmacy, you go to this place where you're surrounded by people all day and you know what you need to do and you've got systems in place. And now you're on your own and, oh gosh, right? Now what do I do? And being able to have people to contact and create this community where you can all collaborate together is just enhances your experience. It brings back that passion. I will tell you from my own personal experience of, yes, this is always what I wanted to do. This is where I should be. And my gosh, I've got these incredible tribe of people that I can talk to and communicate with and get their support. That's so important.
That's such an important piece of it. Is a lot of entrepreneurs fail. And one of the big reasons is when you're left with only the thoughts between your own 2 ears, you can get into a negative spiral of this is just not working. I don't know what to do next. It's not worth it. I'm going to go get another job. I just can't handle this. If we could do away with that loneliness and say, here's a whole bunch of people you can call who are walking similar paths.
Right.
And just like Anna and Sue at that first breakfast, they're like, oh, you're struggling with that? I just figured that out. But I'm stuck on this other thing. And somebody there is like, well, I figured that part out. Here's how that works.
Yeah.
Then suddenly you're not so alone and you're not facing so many barriers by yourself.
And I know exactly how you're feeling, right? I've been there myself as well, right?
Yeah.
It's like your beautiful logo for Medipreneurs. You know, you are going up those stairs and up those steps, and you are, you know, reaching down and helping that person come up. It's such a beautiful, it's such I will definitely say that's one of the things that now going into the entrepreneur end of it over the past few years, I have been so enamored with is just those communities and the collaborations and the support that's there, you know, from so many others, and that needs to continue and beyond the pharmacy, right? With nurse practitioners and PAs and chiropractors and acupuncturists and herbalists, and we all have our own expertises, and we all need to come together because no one person is the same. We are all unique, and we all have unique needs, right?
It's why I've been pulling people together to have these interprofessional conversations, because even in our training, we just don't learn that much about each other. And the depth of knowledge that the other professionals have. And unfortunately, I find sometimes some negative stereotypes get perpetuated when they're not even accurate. So just one tiny representative conversation. I was talking to a chiropractor who's great at relieving people's pain. He wants them to not need to take their pain meds because he can help them relieve the pain in a different way.
Right.
And so they kind of willy-nilly just stop their pain meds. Well, we know that unfortunately is not the safe way to do that. So what an amazing collaboration for him to be able to pick up the phone, call an entrepreneurial pharmacist and say, hey, here's the situation. We've got this medication on board. How should we taper it? Let's get the primary care doc on board, make sure they know what's going on. And we do that in a coordinated way rather than the patient feeling like, oh, this person told me to do this and that person told me to do that, and I can't do both and I don't know what to do.
Right. And even like from my end as a functional medicine pharmacist as well, is now, okay, you're on these medications. How can we collaborate with a primary care physician? How can we do that? What other things can we be using to help, right, with alleviation of that pain, or even try to help them get to some more root cause resolution to it? If it's not like a nerve pain or nerve damage or something like that, is it an inflammatory process, right? What is going on? And again, it's all about that community and bringing people together. That's fascinating to me and so exciting.
The root cause, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. Rather than treat it, let's figure out what's causing it and just eliminate it completely.
Let's collaborate. Let's figure out, let's do some testing. Let's do additional testing. And instead of giving more medications that are going to be more side effects and maybe cause more problems down the line, let's investigate this first before we go any further.
And, you know, a piece of that is we all get nervous when there are things going on that are outside our comfort zone, outside our area of expertise. And so when we come alongside each other and say, hey, I've got your back. Here's another way to think about this. Here's how it works. I'd be glad to explain it in more detail. I think if we do this in association with that together, we can get to the bottom of this. Versus sometimes people feel like it's an affront of, oh, you telling me I'm not doing it right? Well, who are you to tell me I'm not doing it right? You know, it's all in the approach. So coming back to that, let's collaborate. Let's figure out just how smart each other is and all the things we've learned to do that maybe is just not usually highlighted to each other. There's so much opportunity to help each other out. Healthcare is in need, and there's so much we can do to make it better.
Yeah, absolutely. And I definitely think with COVID, that is definitely bringing some shifts in perspective as well, because we don't really know, especially with long COVID, you know, how do we even start to help some of these patients? So let's all come together and try to find solutions and
Yes.
how we can. So for sure. So who is Medipreneurs for? Let's go to that. Like, so if whoever's listening here, who is it for? Who should be attending this summit in 2023?
Medipreneurs is for any health professional who is choosing to be more of an entrepreneur. So they've left the traditional health system. They're doing things a little bit differently because that's where it gets lonely, and that's where we get outside of some of the things we were taught or really learned how to do. And so it's everybody from people that are just thinking about it, kind of dipping their toe in the water, to the people that have companies that they've created and they've hired 20 some people at this point, and they've got their fourth of office is opening because they're expanding so rapidly they can't keep up. I've talked to people and all over that spectrum, and this is for everybody because we're going to identify whether we're at the beginning or we're launching and growing like wildfire. We're going to learn what steps maybe need a little reinforcement. What things did we maybe even skip over because we didn't even know what we didn't know? And we can fill in those gaps now so that our businesses have such a strong foundation from which we will grow.
And this would be for all healthcare modalities?
All healthcare, everybody that considers themselves to be like in that healthcare space. Because again, I think we all have something to offer. So the more that we spend time together and talk, the basics of business development are the same, regardless of what kind of business you are. The basics anyway are the same. But then I think as we sit there elbow to elbow, we're going to realize how we can really support each other in even greater ways than we've done so far.
Yeah, and that's really exciting. That is very exciting. Because just to be able to attend and meet people in all these other different spaces and being able to connect and collaborate, and again, bringing that interdisciplinary collaboration is in the entrepreneurial space is really exciting.
And there's not a lot of that going on. So let's be the hub of that, and let's really make that more of a forward thinking model.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I will say that when I can tell you my viewpoint as a first timer attending live, right? A live event back in August, and I didn't really, I knew what to expect. I knew that this was going to be a space, at the time was pharmacists, right? Entrepreneurs, and I was going to be able to go and just meet some people and get some information. I didn't understand really how much of an impact it was going to have. And so I remember, and you'll appreciate this, but I remember going to the meet and greet on Friday.
Okay,
right
good.
before the conference started, right? And, again, first one, and I knew the people that were going to be there. For me, these were like these rock stars that I've been following for so long, that they have already been in this entrepreneurial space. And oh my gosh, they were out there doing it. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's massive imposter syndrome. Massive. Like, what am I doing here? I shouldn't be in the same space as these people, right? And I remember looking at my friend who had gone with me, also another pharmacist, and who were like, I'm a little nervous. I don't know. And as soon as you get there, it was like you hone in on that one person, right? But then you start talking and you start meeting everyone, and everyone was so open and it was so welcoming. And I remember, there were students there talking about what ideas they had going for independent pharmacy and things like that. And I'm helping them. And I walked away from that meet and greet with no more imposter syndrome.
Awesome.
Basically, we looked at ourselves and said, yeah, this is where we belong. Like, we belong here. And two of the things that really struck me is, even within just the pharmacy space, the differences that were going on. Like, everyone was in a different space. There was massive diversity happening in that room. That was not just retail, right? It was just not hospital. It was oncology. It was writers, podcasters. Like, every functional medicine, like all these different things that these pharmacists were doing. And then the other thing was that there were no egos in the room. Like I had never attended a conference ever where everyone was so open to sharing ideas, to receiving ideas, to just getting to know one another. And the speakers were always available. You always had a question, just go up to them. Everyone was so laid back. It was such a laid back, open, welcoming. It was incredible. I had never been to a conference like that. No, go ahead.
How thrilled I am to hear you say that, because people come afraid to share their ideas, afraid that somebody's going to steal them. Mm-hmm. And one of the things we talk about, I am firmly convinced, if there were 3,000 of us and we all decided to do the exact same thing, there's not enough of us to go around. Yeah. There's no need for this competitive, ego-driven, I'm keeping my secret, not in the Medipreneur space anyway. This is more about how do we all help each other and cheer for each other's success.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can definitely feel that in the space and the people who are attending. The people that you are attracting to Medipreneurs, that's exactly how they are. And I'm even more excited that it's going to be more interdisciplinary and different modalities are going to be there, because that's just going to up-level it even greater.
I will tell you, when we were first conceptualizing Medipreneurs, and, it was terrifying, that very first Medipreneur Summit. Will anyone come? Will this be what they're looking for? You just don't know. You put your heart and soul into planning it, and you just don't know. And our primary sponsor that year, you talked about Friday night, which is informal. Let's just all gather at the hotel lobby and go out to dinner from there, just get things kicked off. He walked in and I'll just never forget the look on his face. And he's standing there just watching this buzz of people. And he was probably in his 60s. So he'd been around the healthcare space for a long time. And he said, I've never been to a healthcare meeting like this with this much energy. And this one hasn't even started. It was just like, you could just feel it.
Yeah. And that was your first one.
I was your very first one before the first speaker ever said it. Yeah.
And I went to your fifth one, and that's exactly how I felt. It was just an incredible experience. And as soon as I left, I signed up for the next one. You had so much there. You had people from marketing, you had people from legal, you had people from all the spaces that you were like, oh my gosh, yes, I need information on this. How can I get more? You offered so much.
That's what I think is going to be extra special about the one coming up in June.
Tell me.
I'm so excited.
I want to know, because I know there's some changes coming up and I want to know. So spill it.
So we are everybody that comes, and we're going to limit it at 200 people because we don't want to lose that ability to really network with everybody. But we're going to all follow the same process, but we'll be coming at it in different ways. So before we get there, each person that already has an established business will take an assessment so they really know kind of where they're at, where they're headed, where they need to focus. But we're going to walk through a process. And so, I'll use myself as an example. I learned through some things that have happened the last couple of weeks that my policies and procedures are not as tight as they could be, because that's not where my heart is, right? I just want to create, and I want to focus in other areas. But especially as an entrepreneur, it's easy to get focused on what you're good at and just ignore all that other stuff. So this will be a chance to embrace the stuff you don't like so much and work with tons of resources around you to shore up those particular components so that you have that, again, that really solid foundation Even if your business is, you've already franchised out into 5 different cities, even then, there may be gaps in your foundation that we need to work on that really stabilizes you for whatever comes next. And so we'll have that opportunity to identify those things, really work on them. And then you mentioned the resources. The plan is to have more resources than ever before, so that as you identify gaps, like I need different business insurance, there will be people that offer business insurance available to you so that you can go ahead and make that decision and get that done.
Wow.
Instead of go home Monday and go, oh, I've got this to-do list of 10 things
That's
identified.
phenomenal. Yeah,
I'm so excited.
Phenomenal. That is very exciting.
As much or more networking as ever. There will still be more than one dream room where you can go off by yourself and be quiet and just really focus. That happens to me anyway. Sometimes you're in a space and this idea comes out of nowhere. And if you don't capture it, 3 hours later, it's gone. So we're going to have those quiet spaces where you can go and really capture those things and make sure you really work through them before you go back to the hubbub of what other people are doing. So lots of group time, lots of individual time. You can really make sure that you walk away with clarity of what you're doing next. And instead of these nebulous to-do lists, which has been one of my frustrations with different kind of meetings I attend. I get great ideas, but then I have to go home and sort through them and figure out what to do with them.
Right. What do I do? What do I do next? And I think I've shared with you how that's probably one of the hardest things for me as an entrepreneur, that you're going from, you're used to being in this very structured space.
Right.
And now you're on your own and you've got all these ideas, all these things you have to do. Gosh, where do you start first? And having that discipline to be able to do it, and the time management and the tasking and the prioritizing. And I think that's the hardest part of being on your own and not really having anybody telling you, hey, by the way, this is when you start, this is where you end. Your schedule's on your schedule. It's a very different space. Having guidance is crucial.
It is. And that's part of the skill set of learning to be a business owner and to take an idea to marketable, profitable fruition, is knowing how to figure out what are the priorities. I would say in the early days, but I still have days like this. I can get a whole lot done. I can get 25 checks on my checklist, which makes me feel so good. But they're not 25 things that really matter that much. They were just busy work. And they had some benefit, but nothing big. I should have been spending that time on the really big items. And there's a discipline, but there's an understanding of what are the important things and what are the unimportant things. I don't know that any of us begin as an entrepreneur having that figured out. And I was talking this morning with somebody who has a very, very, very successful business. And she's still struggling with, those priorities, those big things keep changing. And so keeping your arms around them and know what the most important things are day to day, week to week. It's a challenge. You need the input from other people to keep that.
Yeah, I agree. We need the support in the community and the information and the knowledge, and you meet people at these events that suddenly become your accountability buddies too.
True.
Right?
Oh, so
which
true.
is great.
Yeah.
Hey, why don't we talk once a week? Let's keep ourselves accountable, and all of a sudden you've got this incredible support. It's phenomenal.
Every Friday at 2, I meet with my accountability partner, and part of and she's not in healthcare. So for me, that's a good thing to get somebody completely outside, completely different thought process. But she's a good one. She'll be like, yeah, and why didn't you do that? Yeah. That is not
and then you'll be like,
yes, I know.
I don't know. I didn't do it.
Suddenly cleaning the bathroom seems more fun than that. But it's so easy to get distracted, so easy, or to put off the big things, or kind of like I said earlier, you miss the big things because you don't even know about them.
Well, and I think learning how to capture the big things early on and learning how to do that is gonna bring you success faster. Because
Yes.
now you're not a year in trying to figure it out, right?
Right.
Let's start learning this now so that, we can start moving the needle faster
Yeah.
and getting that success that we need in our business.
And we have a lot of people in Medipreneurs who are truly doing unusual things, truly new ideas that are coming out of their heads that they want to do. So it's not something where you can go buy a process,
Right.
and if you do these 8 steps in these next 3 months, you will have X. If you those are great for some people, that you want to replicate what's been done, and there are ways to do that. But if you've truly got these unique ideas, none of those prefabricated pathways are really going to get you there.
Yeah, that's very true. I didn't think about that, and that is very true. So I'm excited. How can people get information about the summit? Where do they sign up? How can they find you if they want to learn more? Tell me all about that.
So Medipreneurs.com. Medi like medicine, like the world of medicine, and preneurs like entrepreneurs with an S at the end.com.
Okay.
And so we just on Friday got the agenda updated to be a little more clear. And tomorrow, there's a group been working so hard on this really awesome overview video that's this close. So very
excellent.
Well, by the time anyone sees this, that will be on the website as well. And that will just give you a great quick visual of the excitement that's coming in June. To reach me, info@medipreneurs.com is probably the easiest, or just look me up on LinkedIn or wherever, Michelle Fritsch, and I would be glad to tell you more about it.
Perfect. And I'll make sure that all of that is included also in the notes and the information in the video for everyone to be able to move forward in their own entrepreneurial journey, or, get more ideas to grow beyond where they are now. So to recap, I just want to make sure that anyone in any part at any phase of their entrepreneurial stage, any stage that you're at, Medipreneurs is where you need to be, because if you want to gather ideas and collaborate and learn more about how to move forward in your business, this is the place to go. Absolutely, 100%. Michelle, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I've had an amazing time today. And maybe we can come back for part 2 where we can talk more about your personal business in helping those in retirement stages. So I would be excited about that.
Jacqui, I'm so grateful that you invited me. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good one. Thank you.